Howdy folks, today we're going to talk about pastures and what is poisonous to your horses within pastures. And you're looking at it, okay? This is Buttercup. This plant is kind of interesting because it is poisonous to horses when it is in this fresh form, okay? When it's yellow like this and the leaves are green and these little beautiful flowers are out, if your horse eats this, then it is actually toxic to them, and it can result in mouth blisters. It can produce, soreness. It can actually lead to colic in some cases, gastric upset, because there's a toxin in these when they are fresh that is very damaging to horses. The good thing is most of the time horses will avoid eating Buttercup in its fresh form because it has a really bitter taste to them. So you'll notice sometimes that if a horse gets a piece of Buttercup, they'll spit it out. Now, the alternative to that is if this is cut and it is included, say, in hay, in dry format, or if these were sprayed with some kind of, weed killer or whatever, and they were dead, then horses will gobble them up all day long, and it does not affect them. It's not dangerous to them if it's in dried format or dead format. But this fresh, this fresh greenery here is absolutely poisonous to them. So you want to be really careful if you have a field or a pasture that is primarily overtaken by buttercups, because, if horses get desperate, they will eat them, especially if they have nothing else to eat. But you can see that this patch here is just kind of in this scrub lot. It's not really, it's just on the edges here of this scrub. And we will spray these, but they're good pollinators for the bees, and it doesn't really, nobody eats them because, look, they've got all this pasture that we actually turn them out on. So this is really just a laneway that comes down from the barn, and then the horses can go down to the creek. So this is not a pasture by any stretch of the imagination. We did fertilize our pastures to make sure that the buttercups do not take over the pasture, because, that would be very dangerous. So that is one plant you absolutely want to watch out for within your pastures. Okay, so in continuing with our what to watch out for in your pastures, I'm standing out here with the full board horses, the barn horses, and they are currently in the arena, the outdoor arena, because we've just been pounded with rain and mud, so they're down here enjoying some dry time in the big arena. You can see Jack right there is rolling. Jack is my mare True's half brother, but the rest of them are down here just kind of enjoying themselves. So the other thing I want to warn you guys about is Clover. Now, a lot of people might not know that Clover can be harmful to your horse, okay? Now, I need to clarify, because Clover in and of itself is not toxic to your horse, okay? But Clover can develop certain fungus or fungi that is actually toxic to your horse. So in that, you want to, be careful, because if the clover in your pasture has been stressed with like drought or flooding or, anything like extreme cold, something like that, then it can result in this fungus. Sorry, I had to sneeze there for a minute. So anyway, back to the fungus. If your clover has a fungus on it, it can be toxic to your horses because it produces something called slaframine, and that can result in, a toxicity in your horses, which of course nobody wants. So the toxicity could give them an upset stomach, and it definitely causes slobbers. You will see horses drooling. You will see kind of like bubbles and stuff sometimes coming out of their mouth. It can really freak you out actually to see it, because you think that your horse is like foaming at the mouth. But lots of times that is from clover and then it is from a fungus on the clover which produces the toxin slavamine. So you definitely want to be aware of that. Secondly, the toxins can also cause bloat within your horse, which is never a good thing. Here comes Cash. Cash is like 34 years old, so he does look skinny, folks, and unfortunately there's not a whole lot we can do about that. Hi, old man. But his owner is aware. He gets fed about, 10 pounds of food a day, all the grass he wants. He's on a very specialized diet, but he is our oldest resident here. He's a very old man. Anyway, back to the Clover, okay? Clover is, it can cause bloat. It can also cause photosensitivity, because the toxins can actually damage the liver. And then with liver damage can cause photosensitivity, which means that horses are far more susceptible to being burned or harmed by the sun. So that is something else that you do need to be aware of. And of course, just the overall gastric upset that can be caused as well. So, and red clover is one of the biggest offenders with these things that I'm talking about for you guys. So keep an eye on your pastures. You definitely want to watch out for the Buttercups here, and the red clover. We don't really have red clover, so, or really hardly any clover. So, and the Buttercups that we have are not in the pasture. They're just kind of on the, on the outskirts, where we don't really treat, with any type of, weed killer or anything like that. But our pastures are all clean, and clear of the stuff that is harmful to horses, and they are happy and healthy. So we've got great pasture. Very, very grateful for that. You can see how clean the pastures are, as far as you're not seeing a bunch of little yellow heads out there. So anyway, I hope this helps, folks. Just keep an eye on this stuff. Those are the two that I'm going to cover today. There's also some kind of nettle that is really bad for your horses, but you can look that up separately, or I can do a different video on it. I can't remember the name of the nettle right now, but that is another one to watch out for. So anyway, just keep an eye on your pastures, keep an eye on your horses, watch for signs of toxicity if they do get into anything, and make sure that you have the meds on hand to deal with that. Banamine is a great medication to have on hand if your horse starts to exhibit gastric upset. So, all right, have a great day.